Good evening and welcome back to 13 Horror Nights. It's episode 2 and tonight's movie is Get Out. I remember the gigantic impact that this movie had at the beginning of 2017. It was everywhere. It made a ton of money. It was the first horror movie in forever to get nominated for Best Picture. I actually considered watching it for the first 31 Horror Nights in 2017, but I decided against it. And since it was deemed an insta-classic, I was also tempted to watch it in 2018's Horror Nights, but I decided against it again. But this year I figured there's no excuse anymore. I want to see this movie, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. I feel like at the time of its release, especially considering the subject matter of this movie, people were almost afraid to give it a bad review, but I'm just going to be as impartial as I always am. I saw the trailer, and funny thing, I actually recognized one of the actors as one of the people in Bird Box from yesterday, so that was kind of cool. The plot of Get Out is basically there's this black man who is dating a white woman, and they're happy together, and they go to her parents' place for the weekend, and everything's just kind of weird in this suburb. They're all white people, except for, like, the gardeners or the cooks or nannies. They're black people, and there's definitely this weird tension. There's, like, this weird disconnect. Like, they act really nice, but there's also just something about the way they are, and things just start getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and eventually the boyfriend starts getting the other black people working there. There's one point where this one black guy sort of snaps out of whatever he was in and starts screaming at him to run away, to get out, and now they have to escape, and there's something to do with hypnosis. And I understand the basic outline of the movie. I think I've read the plot synopsis on Wikipedia at one point, but I don't remember too many details. But the idea is that there's something wrong in this place, especially for black people. And I don't know if it's really supposed to be a horror or horror comedy. I've heard it both ways, but I'm interested to see in what this movie is actually going to be like, because I've heard so many good things about it from people online and people I know personally. Even at the beginning, I found it kind of weird that Jordan Peele directed this, because he's usually a comedy writer, but hey, it got nominated for Best Picture, and it won Best Horror Movie of 2017 at the Saturn Awards, so I'm interested to watch this, and I'll get back to you. Alright, I have just finished watching Get Out, and it was certainly a very interesting movie. I'm gonna say it's good. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I didn't think it was anything spectacular. It's not like the perfect movie that I've heard some people call it, but it was certainly very good and very interesting. I definitely didn't think it was a comedy, or at least it didn't work as a comedy, because the moments they tried to insert humor felt exceptionally forced, especially towards the end. So the plot of Get Out is what I described it and what it shows in the trailer. And one thing that this movie does extremely well is it's a lot like what The Visit did, where a lot of times you're just wondering, is there actually something really weird going on, or are these just awkward people saying awkward things? Is this something that we should be worried about, or are we just reading too deeply into this? And you definitely see that happen in the main character, Chris. You see that happen with him. Like, there's a lot of times where he doesn't know how to react to things, doesn't know what he should make of things, and it's weird. It's very interesting to sort of see this, because I really kind of get the impression that Chris's character, he doesn't really see things that racially, doesn't really see the world through a racial lens all the time. But then he goes to this place, and everybody there, they see him through a racial lens, and it's like a supposedly like nice racial lens, like, oh, we love black people, oh, I would have voted for Obama a third time, but it's just, they think about it in a way that he doesn't. And this is something that I did like wonder about the movie when I first heard about it. It seems to be not, usually when you think of like races in movies, you think of rednecks and hicks and stuff like that, but in this one, it's well-educated, upper-middle-class white people who mean really well and are super not racist, and it's awkward the way that they act, and it really does come through. I definitely have to give credit to the actor who played Chris, Daniel Kaluuya. He did a very good job throughout this entire movie, but in my opinion, the actor who absolutely stole the show in this movie is Betty Gabriel as Georgina. Just really, really good acting on her part. The scene that she's in is just, it's really intense, and it's acted wonderfully. I feel like with this movie, there is no universal experience with it. I think everybody who watches it is going to react in a pretty different way to it, because a lot of times it's just hard to tell what you're supposed to make of it, what it's trying to do, but That's also kind of what makes this movie so interesting. I would recommend watching this. I'm not going to guarantee that you like it or dislike it. I'm not going to guarantee any specific reaction out of you from it, but I thought it was very interesting to see, like, they took this premise, and this is a very, very particular premise, and see what they did with it. And this movie did manage to surprise me at a few points, especially towards the ending. The ending surprised me, but I can't talk about that until the spoiler section of the video. I think that this movie is worth a watch. Is it spectacular? Not really, in my opinion, but everybody's going to see this movie differently. Now let's get into some spoilers. Now, one thing that I knew going into this, a spoiler I already knew and wish I didn't, was the fact that throughout the entire movie, it seems like the one normal person in the entire thing besides Chris is his girlfriend, Rose. She seems to be very supportive, very loving to him, but at the very end, it's revealed that she's in on the entire scheme. And the scheme is they bring black people into this suburb, then, like, hypnotize them into doing, like, what they say and, like, immobilizing them. And then they do, like, brain surgery to implant the brains of the highest bidder into this black person's body. And when Chris asks why black people, it's the person who is explaining this says, I don't know, black people are trendy, black people are hip or cool, or, like, black people are, like, stronger, which is all stuff they brought up at one point. I don't know if this is supposed to be painted as being explicitly racist or not knowing if you're being racist or some weird gray area. I don't really know. I don't think it's up to me to figure that out. But it's very interesting to see that, because the entire thing is just like, oh, black people are so awesome, black people are so good, and that's what they're saying. But in the end, they really are just treating these people as, like, vessels to use. Absolutely everybody is in on it. The parents are in on it. The entire town is in on it. The one person who seemed normal, this art dealer who's blind, he seemed totally normal. It was like the one normal conversation he had with a white person that wasn't Rose. But no, he was in on it. Everybody in the whole town was in on it, including the girlfriend. And Chris manages to escape, and he, like, fights and claws his way out. And there is this thing where, like, he feels really guilty for, like, his inaction when he was a kid. Like, his mom got in a hit and run, and he didn't go out to look for her. And he was guilty about this the entire time. And there was a turning point in the movie where he's in a car escaping, and he runs over one of the taken over bodies, Georgina. And he is conflicted, but he stops to pick her up and try to save her, which was it was a good moment. It was a good, like, turnaround in that little story arc. So, he manages to escape and kills most of the people after him, and a cop car comes up. And this is the point where I was thinking, all right, because one of the scenes that's played in the trailers a lot was this cop who's asking for Chris's ID, even though he wasn't even driving and didn't do anything wrong. And then the girlfriend's Rose is like, why do you need to see his ID? And it's just, again, like a really awkward, like, nod to police racism or police profiling. And I thought it was going to be that exact same cop pulling up him and seeing what's happened, because it looks like he just killed a bunch of people, seeing that and arresting him. But it's actually his friend who works at the TSA, the same guy from Bird Box. And he figured out where he was going, and he brought him back. But there was this really, really awkward, forced moment of comedy where it was like, I told you not to come here, or just something like that. And it was not needed. It was not necessary, but it did surprise me, because I thought that what they were going to do was actually what turned out to be the original ending, the alternate ending to Get Out, where he does get arrested. But it was interesting that it was able to completely catch me off guard and surprise me in that regard, considering what the movie had set up. I thought that was how it was going to end. Just like Bird Box from yesterday, I feel like this served better as a drama than horror, because I didn't really find it that scary. Just to be honest, like, maybe it's because I knew the premise going in, but more than that, it was just kind of an interesting social commentary, an interesting look in, like, interracial relationships and racial tensions. People are free to interpret it however they want, but for me, it was a good movie. Not great, but it was good. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.